fact that somebody hasn't been fired or somebody hasn't resigned after the failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump is an absolute disgrace to the Secret Service. And I think it's attributable to DEI policies. Here's why. I guarantee you're going to learn something about the Trump assassination and what's going on in the political world by watching this video. My name is Philip Miller, known as a rogue lawyer. I have some experience with sniper operations as a trial lawyer and a strategy coach for various organizations around the world. What I want to share with you today is the importance of separating the signal from the noise. Now, that's a book by Nate Silver, and he focuses on an important thing that all citizens need to know. There's tons of noise in the world. And noise is that static you get on the radio dial. The signal is the actual station. And in a digital world with so much information being shared, it's almost impossible to get the signal. And one of those reasons is because there's millions of people trying to make money off of your fear and anger. So as we deal with this very disturbing situation, which is assassination attempt on President Trump, I want to encourage you to take a moment to say, what is the signal and what is the noise? Who is trying to manipulate me by getting me angry or scared? And who is trying to give me good information? All the while staying alert to making sure you're not being fed bullshit by institutions as well, first and foremost. That was an assassination attempt by a disturbed young man. From my perspective, I don't see any hallmarks of a conspiracy, even though it might be a default position people want to look at. If that was the CIA or the deep state, I guarantee you Donald Trump would be dead. They don't make mistakes. They don't put somebody in that type of scenario. This is amateur at many levels. But what I often tell people is there's this law called Hemlin's Law, and it's worth remembering. And Hemlin's Law states, don't attribute to malice what can adequately be explained by incompetence. And I think the tragedy of this assassination attempt is the incompetence of DEI policies imposed upon the Secret Service. We live in a dangerous world, and our societies want to create an environment of comfort and welcoming atmosphere to people who live in our country. Unfortunately, the perimeter of our society has to be defended by people who can't afford to make mistakes. And although having a more diverse workplace is a great concept, it shouldn't be done at the sacrifice of competence. And when you look at what happened with the Secret Service in that video, it is an absolute disgrace. And it's also a disgrace that in our world, there is no leader who is resigned. Immediately after that, within a 24-hour look at what happened, the head of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, who is a Biden appointee, she used to work at Pepsi. She was a Secret Service agent before, but she got given this job working in security at Pepsi. You can ask yourself if that was a merit-based appointment or a virtue signaling visualization appointment. Because she did do an interview soon after she was appointed where she told the interviewer, my goal is to make the Secret Service 30% female. Now, I don't want to get into the politics of that, but if you can do that and not sacrifice standards, that's fine. But you do not put the president of the United States or a former president or potential president at risk from an assassin because you're trying to look more diverse. You have to understand that the perimeter of our society, the people who man the perimeter, their job is life and death. This is not the place for liberal policies that make you feel good about yourself when you clink a champagne glass at a soiree. You know, because there are certain elements of our society where we need people who are the best. Let's say your 777 pilot when you're going on a transatlantic flight, your heart surgeon, the Secret Service. Like the Secret Service doesn't have kind of a failure rate. They have to be 100% effective at all times because somebody is trying to assassinate a governor, a congressman, a prime minister, a president, whatever it is. You can't make mistakes. You have to have the best. When we look at the video of the Trump assassination attempt, it looks like Keystone Cops. Like they don't look fit, they don't look capable, they look like they're floundering. It is a frickin' gong show. This isn't, and the other question everybody is asking me, because I used to be in charge of sniper platoon in the forces, was how could somebody get on the roof, right? 130 yards. In the infantry, when we train an infantry soldier, they have to be able to do a headshot at 300 yards. right? So 5 days of training, almost everybody who joins the infantry can do a headshot at 300 yards. Anybody could learn to do that simply. At 130 yards, it's not a difficult shot, right? And you have a rooftop 130 yards, peripheral to the president with a direct line right to the president, nothing blocking the line of sight, nothing protecting the president. There's an open rooftop 130 yards away. And the way that generally security forces scope out these types of events is they go there 2 or 3 days before. They establish where the president is going to be speaking, where the president is coming in, how the president is going to leave, and then they create perimeters, right? You have 100, a 300, you should have a 600-yard perimeter, and you establish what are the vulnerable spots from here? What are the points of observations? What are potential shooting lanes? That rooftop would be highlighted in red where I come from, saying this is a dangerous spot. We have to make sure we have eyes on this. What should have happened is there should have been somebody standing there making sure nobody got on. How in the world somebody got on top of that building while the president is speaking, while bystanders are yelling it, somebody should be fired right now. But what I want to get across to you guys as you deal with this situation is it's most likely incompetence. And when you look at any type of catastrophe, especially in the airline industry where I've consulted, it's called the Swiss cheese model. There's a lot of redundancies to prevent a catastrophic event. Right? So if one system fails, there's something that protects it if another one. But when you have a catastrophic flight failure, it's the Swiss cheese model. So like all of the holes kind of rotate so you can go right through the block of Swiss cheese. Everything has to fall in place in a certain way. That happens from time to time. We live in a world where a million things are happening a day. So in this particular situation, it looks to me like you have a disturbed 20-year-old who was bullied, who wanted to be on the rifle team and was fired from it because he was no good, who got it in his head that this was something that he should do. And so he made a bit of a plan, and he was able to sneak through by way of probably incompetence and luck from his perspective to be able to get on the roof, right? The other thing that's disturbing is we don't have a comms channel that says when people were saying there's somebody on the roof, the second you hear that there's somebody on the roof who's not authorized, there should be a code sent out on the Secret Service channel and the talk should be shut down. And the president should be taken away to protect from this happening. But the fact that that individual was on the roof for I don't know how many minutes and people knew about it and wasn't taken out is a problem. The one thing I would share with you is he fired off 8 shots. From what I was able to understand is that a local police officer responded to people saying there's somebody on the roof. He climbed up on the roof and the would-be assassin on the roof pointed his carbine at him, which is a very powerful weapon compared to a police officer's pistol. And the police officer kind of either freaked out or panicked and fell back off the roof. I think that police officer saved the president's life because then the shooter knew he was limited in time. And so he rushed to get his shots off. It looked like he had an electronic detonation device. He may have planned to blow up a car in a different location to cause a distraction so then he could take the shot and get out of there while everybody heard an explosion and then shots. But because that officer actually confronted him, now we would think that maybe he should have stood there and risked death and pulled out his pistol to save the president, but it looks like he may have fallen backwards or whatever. But he forced the shooter, who is a bad shooter, he was cut from his rifle team at his high school at one point, to rush his shots. When you hear 8 shots quickly, bang, 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 that's not how you conduct a sniper operation or a targeted shot. That's what you would do in an ambush scenario, in a house clearing scenario. You know, you can do a double tap when somebody is in front of you, like bang, bang, but controlled shots. But a sniper shot is usually a deliberate, slow squeeze of the trigger. If that shooter would have kept his calm and just laid down there, took a couple deep breaths and taken the shot, he would have likely hit the president. And if he missed, he could have taken one more. But 8 shots, that's what resulted in the other civilian casualties because he just started going bang, 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 bang. And now the muzzle is going everywhere and he's panicking and then he gets shot in the head and killed. I don't know how when there was somebody on the roof that counter sniper team we can see in the video didn't have their scope on that shooter's head the whole time. And as soon as they see a police officer come up on the roof, him point his gun at a police officer and then go into the firing position, from my perspective, he probably should have been shot before he got any shots off. There's going to be a major investigation. This is a failed Secret Service operation. And we don't know why. But one of the things I want people to consider is that DEI, although well-intentioned, should not have a place in situations that require optimal security and optimal performance. And when you see what happened with Trump on the stage, you saw people who were too small and not strong enough to move. The president's a large man, right? It's not sexist to say that we need large, strong men to protect a large man if, when there's a shooting situation, they have to grab him, tackle him, and get him off the stage within seconds. Because in many of these operations, this guy on the roof seemed to have a plan. Often there can be a second shooter, but Trump was kept on that stage in full view for 10 to 30 seconds. And then his head is exposed. You have to know there's a second shooter there. And you can hear by their radio comms, they're like, okay, what do we do next? Where do we go? Like, that's fucking unacceptable. Everybody should know exactly what to do. They tried to cover the body of the president because they have body armor on. May or may not be successful with high-powered bullets being shot, but it's something. But the one lady was so small, she only covered half of his torso. That's useless, right? They took too long to get, there's a phrase we have in emergency situations saying you have to get off the X. And this is applicable to any of you. If ever you guys are in an emergency situation where it's a boat sinking, a plane that's on fire, or shooting, people die because our human brains stick us and we stay in the same spot. We take too long to move. So in our training, it's like as soon as you know there's an emergency situation, get off the X, move. Because once you start moving, it frees your brain to make decisions. But often people can be scared into paralysis. But in this particular case, the president stayed on the X way too long. He should have been moved off the side. Like, I would have grabbed him and thrown him down into the crowd and then moved over to the vehicle. It took way too long to do it. And then unfortunately, there's the video of the Secret Service agents around the car just looking like bumbling idiots who have never holstered or unholstered a weapon before. Ask yourself, if you're in an emergency situation, who do you want to protect yourself? The best, or somebody that represents every segment of a flag, right? There are places for that, but it's not in a situation where your life is at risk or your country's leader is at risk. Don't fall victim to every conspiracy theory you hear out there. Right now, the internet is trying to capture your eyeballs by making up stuff to get you upset. That's the way the system works. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the thoughtful person. But to sum up on this, by way of just imagery, Donald Trump is a very lucky man and he actually showed himself to be a brave man. You have the image of Joe Biden being kind of an incompetent grandpa at the debate and unable to put sentences together and kind of falling down on stairs. Like, he looks feeble. And then you have your president who survives an assassination attempt and puts his fists in the air. That picture of him with the flag and the blood coming down his face, I think, is going to be equal to the Napoleonic picture that we're all familiar with. Whether you agree with his politics or not, it's a powerful, powerful image. And what we have to figure out in our country is we need to understand that we need to project power to the rest of the world. They want to take our stuff. They want to beat us. If we want to protect the safe environment we've created for our citizens, we have to project power, not weakness, right? And that's kind of infected our society. We're projecting weakness by putting weak people in positions of power while other people who want to come and take from us are laughing at that. Donald Trump's image there is amazing. Finally, just as a thought, when everybody says God saved him, I call BS. And whether you're religious or not, hear me out. It's just very convenient to say, oh, God made him turn his head at the last second. Things happen when we live in a world of high stakes. Sometimes people die because of a freak, and sometimes people survive because of a freak. It's statistical probability, right? Donald Trump's head was swiveling the whole time. The shooter was under pressure. That's not God. If God was there, God would have made sure that shooter wasn't so demented that he thought he had to assassinate a human being. God could have stopped it before the shooter got on the roof so the fire chief didn't get there. Please don't attribute Donald Trump's survival to God, because there's a fire chief who died, who was shot in the head protecting his family. There are other people that were wounded. So that same thinking would say that God deliberately killed the other man, right? It's not about God, it's about probabilities, and it's about putting systems in place that protect us from bad actors. I'm interested in your comments on that. I'm happy to continue providing observations as we go on. But in the meantime, control your anger. Don't become a victim of manipulators. But based on what I saw, Trump has my vote 100% on his reaction to that. Thanks.